many of you know Chuck. He's the son of Lizzie, remember? And Chuck had, you know, he got a new hat. I'll put it that way. Chuck got a new hat. And let's see. Just so y'all can see, you know, what happened. Chuck got a new hat, and now, you know, a lot of people, particularly a lot of liberals and people on the right, they're like, oh my God, isn't this wonderful? And you know, a lot of us, especially in the Imperial Core, both sides of the Imperial Core, that is, we're like, yeah, so who cares? Goodness gracious. You know, it's funny. I'm trying to find everybody sharing about this coronation, but a lot of people who I'm actually talking to, they're okay. I'm trying to find it. What is it? Why didn't I have that? You know what? You guys don't even need to see the gory details about this man putting on a big ass, ugly ass hat that was made of precious metals that were stolen from people in the global south, and made of precious stones stolen from people in the southeast. Oh my God, this is brilliant. I got to show you guys this. Hang on. Any of you guys watch Star Wars back in the day? Well, not back in the day, but lately. Oh, he looks just like Supreme Leader Snoke. Isn't that funny? Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Anywho, so Chuck, or Charles, became king. He was crowned king yesterday. Anyway, so because he was crowned king yesterday, everybody was up in arms, you know, talking about it. And so a lot of people aren't, you know, a lot of people who are comrades of ours have been pointing out, like, yeah, he really has no legitimacy, especially to the global majority, and which I agree. But I would like to show you guys why that is. And a lot of you already know why that is, but there may be some people who probably never, you know, watched, and they're probably like, oh, well, the royal family, they're cool, right? And it's like, yeah, no. So let's go here. Let me see. God, I love this channel. And I know I have a marker. Oop. One more. Where's my marker at? Just so that I know where to begin and where to end. Let me see. 5. Okay. All right. So let's go. Let's go right there. All right.
No royal family. But as they say, a dog's tail can never be straightened. In 1660, the royals returned. Charles II became king. After centuries of killing sons, brothers, and nephews, they were ready for the next stage, colonialism. Close your eyes and pick any country on the globe. Chances are, Britain invaded it. Around 90% of all countries were invaded by the British. They became the superpower of the 18th century. Their economic model? Slavery. To be clear, Britain did not start the slave trade. That would be Portugal and Spain, but Britain perfected it. They transported around 3.4 million Africans to their colonies. 2.7 million reached alive, the rest perished. this was all done with royal approval. Remember Charles II? During his rule, the Company of Royal Adventurers into Africa was set up. Nothing adventurous about it. This company shipped more slaves than any other. Its shareholders included royal family members. If Charles II institutionalized slavery, Charles III is carrying its burden. That's the current king. His direct ancestors bought slaves in Virginia. We are yet to hear an apology, though. Looking back, what do we make of this empire, of this throne? It was built on the blood of murdered relatives, on the sweat and blood of slaves and colonial subjects. By some accounts, 100 million Indians died prematurely because of British policy. 100 million Indians in just 40 years. They also took resources worth $45 trillion, which is 15 times Britain's current GDP. The entire world has had to pay for the royal family's mistakes. The First World War was such a case. Don't believe me? Take a look at these men. They look the same, don't they? Well, because they're all cousins. One is George V, King of England. The other is Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. The third is Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany. All three were rulers during the First World War, and all three were also cousins. Their rivalry...
Did you guys know that? Basically, one family ruled a continent. Isn't that interesting, though? Cousins. Cousins. There's a lot of inbreeding that went on, but you know, all these royal families, they're all related. All of them. Oh, Carrie, you said sounds too low? Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me see. Let me see what I can do. I can. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't have a volume booster. Some people are saying the sound is fine. I don't know. My apologies, though. But yeah, all three of these guys are cousins.
Their rivalry ended with the death of 20 million people. This flashback is a reminder of the real history of the British throne, the blood they spilled, the innocents they executed, and the lands they plundered. The throne soiled by cruelty and ruthlessness.
So as far as people like Charles or Chuck, he's basically benefiting from a horrible system. A horrible system that has that he's benefited from. And so people, people say, oh, well, he's, we got to respect what, the monarchy stands for, or that's British culture. Well, even some Brits agree with me that we should end the monarchy. So this is from Patrick Thilwell. And Patrick got arrested. So, hold on. So Patrick said, today I was arrested at the coronation on suspicion of carrying eggs. Eggs, right? Like eggs, that type of eggs. I was identified by facial recognition cameras and snatched from the protest with handcuffs so tight they cut my skin. For the second time, I was dragged through a crowd of monarchists baying for my blood. They continue. I was searched, and when they found nothing, was released after half an hour. The police had to escort me back through the monarchist crowds because so many people were assaulting me. So, let's see.
Yeah. No, I've been arrested just for being here.
I see him as the bravest person there. That's the bravest person in the entire crowd. I tell you. Oh, there's more stuff I got to share. More stuff. All right, so there was that. And this was shared by a comrade, Onyx Sikibus. Let's go here. And this person, you guys know who, oh my God, what's his name? Piers Morgan. You guys know who Piers Morgan is, right? Well, this student destroys Piers Morgan live on television. Let's go.
The coronation in a week and a half's time. The whole world will watch, and they will see our country at its best, doing what very few places can do. The
best. Oh, I'm just gonna see it at our country's best. Our best is having a monarchy. Oh my gosh. Jeez, Louise.
Very few places can do. The pomp, the pageantry, the military procession. And it's something to make us all feel proud.
There are plenty of ways to engender national spirit and buttress the economy that don't involve subscription to a controversial hereditary dynasty whose right to rule is still, if I might be allowed to remind you, officially legitimized by the authority of an Anglican God that doesn't exist. I'm sorry, I just can't take this seriously. I understand
You're
why
an
they
atheist anti-monarchy.
I understand why they have to keep up with the crowns and the capes. Because without these, who are these people? Nothing more than thin.
Well, I might say the same about you. I mean, who are you, an atheist anti-monarchist, to tell me how this country should be run?
Right. I think
being an atheist isn't an insult anymore. And being an anti-monarchist is actually pretty based. So he thinks Piers Morgan thinks he ate with that, and he didn't even taste it. It's just crazy. Okay, let's go.
Why do you have more rights?
The qualification a person needs to criticize the head of state is citizenry. Within that state, I'd be quite concerned if you disagreed with that. The moment somebody claims the right to rule over me by birthright, I think I sort of automatically adopt the right to criticize them too.
A shocking new poll says 78% of Britain's young people don't care about the monarchy.
Nice.
Almost 40% of them would even prefer an elected head of state.
You mentioned earlier that the poll was shocking and said that some people would even prefer an elected head of state, as if this is some kind of radical idea.
Well, it is for this country.
What would the alternative be in your eyes?
Democracy.
Yeah, we're often told that we don't really have a good alternative to monarchy in this country, but I feel like we're already living it. I'm told, on the one hand, when I complain about the illegitimate influence that the monarchy has over the politics of this country, that they don't really have any power at all. They don't really do anything. They cut a few ribbons here and there, except for the legal and tax exemptions that they have, the influence over the prime minister. Perhaps this is true.
You're missing the point.
Maybe they really don't have the power, but
you're missing the
same
point.
token that somehow, if I therefore suggest that we should get rid of them altogether,
no, but I think
they're somehow integral to the upkeep of the political system.
No, they're not.
Royalists seem to want to have their victorious
I don't argue.
So basically, it's like if we criticize them, well, they don't that much power. They're just symbolic. But then when you want to get rid of them, because it's like, what's the purpose of them? Then they go, but no, that will upend our entire political system. Like, which one is it? Are they that meaningful and integral to our political system, or are they just a figurehead? Which one is it? But they never say which one. I'm leaning on the side of they literally still have that much power. They just don't want you to think that they have that much power. That's honestly what I think. It's the same thing here. You know, they want you to think that, oh, you guys have a democracy, you guys have power, but in reality, do we really have that much power? Because it seems to me like the people who are over JP Morgan and Bank of America and the Federal Reserve and the IMF and the World Bank, people like that, they really have more power than any of us. And they're the ones that basically dictate how the direction our country goes. Maybe just me, but that's what it feels like. I don't know. What do I know? So there was that. And then there was, this is why having this monarch continue on is horrible. So I'm going to share a couple TikToks as well, because I like the way they explain things. So this is why. And my question in the title is, should we chuck King Chuck? There is some evidence to support that. And also get to the poll as well. If you guys haven't taken the poll in the chat, go ahead and take the poll. But let's take a look at this.
Did you know South Asians were physically altered by British colonialism? Dr. Mubin Sayed explains how.
South Asians are starvation adapted due to having to survive at least 31 major famines, especially during the 18th and 19th centuries, along with chronic undernourishment.
Under British rule, around $45 trillion in wealth was stolen from India, leaving tens of millions to die from starvation.
There is a multi-generational effect of trauma experienced by one generation that is passed down through epigenetics. Our body wants to store fat, and it wants to maintain a low lean muscle mass because muscle burns up calories. You know, if you're in a starvation state, the last thing you want to do is burn up calories.
According to one study, South Asians are up to 6 times more likely to develop diabetes than Europeans.
We have a unique physiology. You need to be extra careful. Otherwise, you're going to that's affecting South Asians, and it's really tragic. People are dying in their 30s and 40s.
South Asians have a 40% higher chance of dying from a heart attack than the average population.
You know what's is sad? What's sad is that colonialism is so widespread that it literally helped change the physiology of a lot of the people that it has plagued. And so now, guess what? You have people that are literally going through health conditions. Colonialism and imperialism is so bad that it will affect your children and your children's children.
There's evidence that South Asians have different responses to even to exercise, to a workout regimen. We respond differently. We don't get as much strength, for instance.
That's the plague of imperialism that constantly comes after us, day by day. And this is another one that I'm going to be showing. This one is the perils of colonialism and in Yemen. I know some, from time to time we talk about what's going on in Yemen. I think this is also very important. So this is what it's like. By the way, this one's going to be, kind of viewer discretion advised as well. But this is important to see how colonization happened in Yemen in the 1960s.
What you? Huh?
The last time I saw images like this was when I was watching Schindler's List. That's imperialism. That's colonialism. That's how it treats the people who they are trying to take power away from. And it's not just limited to places like Yemen or places like Yemen and India. It's also, in places like Kenya.
Kenyans are suing the UK government over colonial abuses and land theft. They're seeking a reported $200 billion.
If you go to Kericho, they will tell you that the British never left. The status quo is not acceptable, it's not sustainable, and the resistance is moving in the right direction.
British colonizers forced Talai and Kipsige's people off their land in Kericho County to make tea farms for white settlers between 1895 and 1963. More than 500,000 Kenyans suffered human rights violations, including killings, sexual violence, and torture, as British forces stole their land. Kenya is one of the largest black tea exporters in the world, and to this day, multinational corporations like Lipton and Unilever continue to profit from the land. Those two companies did not immediately respond to an AJ Plus request for comment.
They should.
So next time you sip on some Lipton tea, that's what you got to think about. It's sad.
Should precisely bear in mind as they enjoy that cup of tea. That cup of tea has a history of domination, colonialism, exploitation, and basically slave labor. When people have that kind of consciousness, they can call their companies to account.
Wealthy countries continue to benefit from the exploitation of the global south for cheap labor and raw materials. In Kenya, farm workers for flour exporters say they usually earn around $3 a day, well below a living wage. And many have reported being sexually harassed by their supervisors.
If people knew the exploitation of young women in places where these flower plantations exist, they will probably not participate in the celebrations of Valentine's Day.
After fierce resistance, British colonial rule ended in Kenya in 1963. But the former empire has largely avoided confronting its bloody past. Now, the Kericho case has been brought to the European Court of Human Rights because the UK has failed to address these colonial crimes. In response to an AJ Plus request for comment, the UK government said it would be inappropriate to comment on legal proceedings.
The fact that the British continue to ignore these claims and just basically dismiss them is an act of gross inhumanity and injustice. This is an issue that will not go away, and they have to respond to it. And the Caribbeans will raise the same issue. The people from India, they're still calling for reparations as well.
It's not often that the UK provides reparations, but in 2013, the country provided a compensation settlement of around $30 million to over 5,000 elderly Kenyans who the British tortured and abused during the Mau Mau uprising for Kenyan independence.
The British should pay reparations, and they've started doing that, so they should continue.
I would personally argue that the British also need to pay reparations to some of us, African descendants of slaves here in the United States, because some of our lineage goes back before the United States ever became a country. So yeah. Also, there's a lot of Jamaicans that need reparations from England, and people in Barbados. They deserve reparations too. So these countries, man. Indians. How many Indians? Oh my God. It's a lot. It's quite a lot. And then this will be the last one, but this is also a really good video that I had it. I saw it quite a bit ago, but this one is also really interesting that I just wanted to show you guys. But
you know how anti-communists always love to say communism killed 100 gazillion people as their favorite gotcha, but never want to talk about the violence of capitalism? Well, a new report in the journal World Development estimates that British colonialism killed 100 million people in India in just 40 years.
Isn't it nice when our young people, they do research and then they find out that when people talk about, oh my God, communism killed this 100 gazillion people, when in reality, that was just projection, because capitalism was actually the one that killed all those people. This is why reading is fundamental. Did you like the stream, by the way? Go ahead and give me a like. Let's continue.
The authors of the report describe the deaths caused by British colonialism as, quote, among the largest policy-induced mortality crises in human history. Prior to colonization, India had one of the largest industrial sectors in the world, with their main export being high-quality textiles. But this changed when the British rigged Indian manufacturing in their favor. They imposed a system of taxes that prevented Indians from selling cloth within India, let alone exporting it. This utterly destroyed Indian manufacturing and reduced the country to a source for raw materials. And this, of course, caused widespread hunger and poverty. Another example is the Bengal famine of 1943. During World War II, Winston Churchill had food taken from India to feed the British Army, just as a massive famine was sweeping through Bengal. Churchill blamed the Indians for his own murderous policy, saying that the famine was their fault for, quote, breeding like rabbits.
How many times you've heard people say, oh, well, these people who are poor and impoverished, they don't deserve to have kids. Winston Churchill said the same thing, even though what he was doing was behind their suffering or adding to their suffering. He's a eugenicist.
Adolf Hitler himself admired the British Empire as a model for imperialist domination. He said, quote, what India was for England, the spaces of the East will be for us. This is the real legacy of capitalism that we never learn about. And it's interesting because 100 million is the same figure that anti-communists claim represent the death toll of communism. But this is totally false. The source of this figure is the infamous Black Book of Communism. This book has been sharply criticized by historians, and even its own authors have distanced themselves from it. Authors have admitted that this guy, Stéphane Courtois, was obsessed with reaching the 100 million number, regardless of what the research actually showed. The book includes deaths from the Russian Civil War, a war where Russia was invaded by 21 imperialist armies and even includes the deaths of Nazis in World War II as victims of communism. On top of that, this whole argument is based on the incorrect assumption that Stalinism was communism. In fact, some of the first people to go in Stalin's purges were socialists, communists, and members of the Bolshevik Party. Today, countless deaths occur daily just to protect the profits of the capitalists. 9 million people die of hunger every year. Meanwhile, Elon Musk hoards enough wealth to solve world hunger. Under a just socialist system led by the working class, this wealth would be used to solve people's problems. The economy would be based on human need, not the enrichment of a few individuals. As revolutionary socialists, we fight to put an end to capitalist exploitation and for total liberation of the oppressed.
Thank you, young person. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's look. Should we have, Chucky Sausage Fingers as continuing as a monarch? I don't think so. In fact, let's take a look at the poll. I want to see what you guys said. Wait a minute, what else going on? Okay. Goodness gracious. Things are working slow. Should the monarchies be abolished? Yes. No more monarchies, 96%. No, God save the king, 4%. Who did 4%? Who that 4% out of 174 votes that said, no, God save the king? Which one? You know what? Oh, goodness. There might be some people who actually still believe that there's legitimacy in the monarchy. But, yeah, no, I don't think so.